He is the dowry for the bride, being led into Jerusalem. He was offering his very life. 3 days later, the bridegroom, after Sunday, 3 days, that was on a Wednesday night, he sat down with just a few of his covenant people, presented his disciples with the cup of communion. This was an invitation to enter into a blood covenant relationship with him. He was offering his eternal covenant. His purpose was to offer a blood relationship, a blood covenant relationship. And we know that the Last Supper Messiah was courting his disciples in the manner of a Hebrew wedding engagement. He was offering them the cup of betrothal in the realms of the love of God. It was understood then as a proposal. So when he offered the cup and he offered the bread, and if you eat of this bread and drink of this cup, you are accepting the betrothal of Jesus. So the next time when we come on a Sunday receiving the cup and the bread, we can put this into our mind that we are receiving an offer of betrothal of Jesus. And it's not something that we just do once a week or once every month. We have a Sunday gathering and we have a communion. And sometimes it's just something that we have to do, but we have to take it in the realm of God's wonderful plan in the beginning in how He placed us the Passover lamb and the feast that He has placed before us. So this was a proposal. And when you drink that cup, you're accepting. And when you eat that bread, you're receiving that proposal. And we know that He was betrayed by Judas. He didn't have anything to do with this, so He deserted. So the bread of Christ was rejected by these earthly religious hierarchies. The religious hierarchy at the time is the father of the bride. They were the father of Israel. And they refused. Instead, they paid out 30 pieces of silver, visiting the bridegroom. And then we know that Judas threw back the offering of 30 pieces of silver. So there was a betrayal. Some, like Judas, did not receive, did not accept. And even the father of the bride, the father of Israel, the religious hierarchies refused. At that time, during those days, before the feast, the Passover lambs were brought for inspection. They were to be found faultless, without mark or blemish. That's the practice. Same with the Messiah, too. He was being inspected first by the religious powers. Remember, he was brought to the Sanhedrin. He was examined. He was checked. What fault can I give this lamb? What wrong can I accuse him of? And they could not find any. They have to bring up false witnesses to bring faults in him. And then the civil government powers at that time, it was wrong. They brought him to Pontius Pilate. And he did not find any fault in him. Twice passed. Perfect lamb. No fault, no blemish, pure, ready for sacrifice. And so on the 14th day of Nisan, the 10th day was Palm Sunday, the 14th day of Nisan, moon, full moon. Remember, 14th and 15th is the middle of the month. As the Passover lambs were being slaughtered, Israel's promised Passover lamb was also taken to the slaughter. And also, the Passover, the year of the Passion, witnessed so many tears. Sadly, they laid him on the grave. The sun set that awesome day, and another began. The 15th day of Nisan moon began the feast of unleavened bread. And the sinless unleavened bread of heaven was in the grave, fulfilling the feast. And it was on the 15th day of Nisan, the feast of unleavened bread, that they laid Jesus on the tomb, fulfilling the feast. Feast of unleavened bread. On the 15th day, the same month, the feast of unleavened bread to the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation. And you shall have no customary, so this is Sabbath, no customary work. When it's mentioned no customary work, it means it's a Sabbath rest. But you shall offer an offering made by fire to the Lord for 7 days. The 7th day shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work. And the Lord spake to Moses. Okay? So, I'll just do this quickly. This is the time of Moses. This is when they passed through. I will pass through the land of Egypt. Tonight I will smite on the firstborn of the land of Egypt, both men and the beast, against the gods of Egypt. I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And they left Egypt daytime hours. The first month of the 14th day, the month of at even at night, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 120th day. So we have the 15th day is the Sabbath, 21st day is the Sabbath. And then Jesus laid the sepulchre before the Sabbath, the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Not necessarily the 7th day. Because the Feast of Unleavened Bread is the Sabbath. So when you read the scriptures, and they returned and prepared spices, ointments, and rested the Sabbath day according to the commandment. What Sabbath day? The Sabbath of the Unleavened Bread. Okay? So that kind of gives us new light to the scriptures because we read the feast. Next feast is first fruits. First fruits. Speak to children as well, when you come to the land and give you, reap the harvest, and you shall bring a sheaf from the first fruit of your harvest to the priest. You shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted on their behalf. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. And you shall offer that day what you wave the sheaf, a male lamb, and the first year without blemish is a burnt offering to the Lord. This is another celebration. And I just want to skip here. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It's something we need to watch because the Lord seems to want us to be a statute, meaning something that we observe forever throughout our generation. It's a shadow or a rehearsal. By the way, when you see, where is this? When you see the word holy convocation, the root word is really rehearsal. So when the Lord speaks about a holy convocation, He speaks about there is a rehearsal. I want you to rehearse. Okay? Practice. Or a shadow or a rehearsal. And the evening before the parting of the Red Sea, the children of Israel saw the Egyptians pursuing them. They were trapped between the Egyptians and the Red Sea. They saw no hope. So this is the first fruit. This is the rehearsal. And Moses said to the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which is shown to you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. So they were saved because they were in the blood of the Lamb, and this is the rehearsal that they do. By the way, in this part of the scriptures, I tend to believe that Egypt has no longer has a role, I believe, towards the last days when it comes to going and attacking to Israel, because I believe that has already been fulfilled. You shall see them again no more forever. Okay? So here comes first fruits. But this is how Jesus fulfilled it. But now is Christ risen from the dead, become the first fruits of them that slept. But every man in his own order, Christ the first fruits, afterward they are Christ at his coming. So when Christ rose from the dead, that was first fruits. He rose from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept. So Jesus is the fulfillment of the first fruits. Now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast down 7. So the first day of the week, Sunday, he rose, and when his first fruits, we saw on the calendar, it's on the 17th of Nisan. 14th, 15th, 17th. 14th Passover, he died. 15th is unleavened bread, laid in the tomb, and on the 17th, he rose again. That is first fruits. So you see 3 days after, 17. That is according to the feast of the Lord. The year of Exodus, it was when the morning appeared. So just as Jesus rose from the dead, Moses stretched forth his hands over the sea returned to his tent. When the morning appeared, the Egyptians fled against it. The Lord overthrew the Egyptians at the base of the sea. This is a picture of salvation. That when Jesus rose from the dead, his salvation has been completed. We have crossed over. We've crossed over the sea, the Red Sea. It happened when the morning appeared. So when Jesus rose from the dead, we rose from death to life. We moved from death to life. And this is the year of Yeshua's resurrection, Mark 16:9. When Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary out of whom he died. So the story of Exodus from Egypt maps the events of Messiah's death and resurrection. It was a shadow of future events, and it was fulfilled by Jesus. So, kumplito na yan ang atong Passover, ang atong unleavened bread, kaya ang atong first fruits. Hallelujah. You're good. Then, Feast of Weeks, or Pentecost. 50 days after the 17th of Nisan. Let's go. And you shall count for yourself from the day after the Sabbath, the day that you brought the sheep, the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths, you count 7 Sabbaths shall be completed. Count 50 days to the day after the 7th Sabbath, and you shall offer a new grain offering to the Lord. You shall bring to my dwellings. So these are the things that the Lord required. And continue. And then again, you see a holy convocation. This is a rehearsal. And you shall do no customary work. That is a Sabbath. So now we can hapos na lang subong no? Intindihan na lang. Sabbath day is Pentecost. So in Jesus' time, that was Pentecost. You can read through that and download the notes. Was fully come, they were all in one accord, one place, and suddenly there came a sound from heaven as a rushing mighty wind, and there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of a fire, and sat upon each of them, and they were all filled with the Holy Ghost and began to speak with other tongues, and the Spirit gave them utterance. This was 50 days also after the resurrection. Was observed 50 days after the first fruits, and in Moses' time they crossed the Red Sea 50 days after the feast. So, wow. 1, 2, 3. So, summarizing the timeline of the spring feast and appointed days, Nisan 10, on the 10th of Nisan, is not a feast, but it is a command of the Lord to find yourself a lamb without blemish. So, pick a lamb without blemish. And in Yeshua's time, he entered Jerusalem Palm Sunday. He was shown without blemish. And Nisan 14, that is Passover. So they killed the lamb, and that's also when Yeshua died. Nisan 15, this is firstborn killed and they left Egypt. Okay? So, but this is Yeshua's body rested. And then Nisan 17, Pharaoh was killed in the sea. Redemption and resurrection of Yeshua. He resurrected. And then 50 days later, God gave the 10 commandments to Moses. After this incident, there was an incident of that Moses was called up into the mountain, and then he was given the 10 commandments. And then that is 50 days later also Pentecost happened after Jesus resurrected. So you see how the feast all properly in place, and how Jesus wonderfully, accurately fulfilled the appointed days that God has given. Now go to the fall feast, appointed day feast. We have the memorial of the blowing trumpets, Rosh Hashanah, but it's not Rosh Hashanah, it's memorial of the blowing trumpets. Blowing of trumpets means it's the day of Teruah, blowing of trumpets. It's on the 7th month of the month of Etanim, and it's on the first day of the month. Then comes the Day of Atonement. It's also in the month of Etanim. It's on the 10th day of the month. Then the Feast of Tabernacles is on the 15th of the month, and it's going through the following 7 days on the 22nd. So 15th and the 22nd. Alright? So let's look at the feast. Memorial of the blowing of trumpets. What is the memorial of the blowing of trumpets? Well, and the Lord spoke to Moses, speak to the children of Israel, the 7th month, the first day of the month, you shall have a Sabbath rest. In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, it's a Sabbath. We didn't care whether it's a 7th day or what we call a Saturday, but it is the Feast of Trumpets, so it's a Sabbath. It is a memorial blowing of trumpets. It's a holy convocation, a rehearsal. I think we should get good at this rehearsal, because this is what we need to rehearse. Because these are still the feasts that Jesus is yet to fulfill. So, the day of blowing is Teruah, which is Hebrew, whatever.
Sa Bible, wala may Hebrew transliteration. Kota, naging print out ko na lang. It's trua. It's acclamation. It's a battle cry. It's an alarm blow. It's a shout. Shout is basically alarm. Sound of trumpets, shout, blast of war, alarm. So this is a different kind of a blowing of the shofar. It's a call for an alarm. It's a cry. Warning. Right? So